Hi there, Steve Kaufman here. This is the third of these 12 videos that will accompany you through these 3 months where you are working to make a breakthrough in your language learning. I want to focus on different sort of activities, different aspects of the things that you can do to improve during these 3 months, these 90 days. And today I want to talk about listening, the importance of listening, how to make listening more effective, and why it's so important. So, as you know, modern language acquisition research indicates that input of comprehensible and compelling material is vital to our acquisition of the language. It's not a matter of explaining the language or drilling you in the language. It's a matter of you exposing yourself to a lot of compelling content. Obviously, this can be done by reading, but listening has a lot of advantages. Listening is easy to arrange. You can do it anywhere. You can do it 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time. We have this lovely print behind me, one of my favorite prints of southern France done by Van Gogh. But this also happens to be our kitchen here in Palm Springs, and it's a major listening area for me because I'm usually the one who cleans up. I also use the Swifter to clean the floor. Any activity that I do around the house, I can do while listening. So listening is very convenient in that regard. It's easy too. Sometimes you fade out, sometimes you focus better. It's easy to do. It can be a little more challenging to read, and of course it takes a lot more work to arrange to find someone who can speak to you in the language that you're learning. So listening is the easiest thing to arrange. And it's very effective. I find that reading helps with vocabulary acquisition, but listening prepares you for speaking, especially if you listen more than once to the same content, at least at the beginning of your journey in the new language. Later on, as you progress, you don't need to listen more than once when you're at a sort of a high intermediate level. But when you're at the beginner level, I find it very useful to listen more than once to the same content. And when I say more than once, I'm talking 30, 40, 50 times. In my recent efforts at learning Arabic and Farsi and even Greek before then, where we have these mini stories which use the most frequently used verbs in the language, and they repeat within the same story 3, 4, 5 times, the same structures, the same verbs, maybe slightly different forms of the verb or different tenses. And so this exposure, repetitive exposure, and then listening to it over and over and over again, noticing different things each time, prepares your brain, makes the brain more familiar with the language. And so then when you go to speak, you find that you're able to speak much earlier, at least in my own case, much earlier than was the case before. So listening is easy to arrange. You can do it whenever you want. And it's tremendously powerful for improving your speaking and also your pronunciation. Now, one should equip oneself for effective listening. So first of all, if you are listening at Link, if you're listening to a lesson, make sure that you download that to your playlist, because then you'll always have it with you. And it goes across different devices. So if I save a lesson, the audio, to a playlist on my computer, it is automatically available for me on my iPod Nano. It's available for me on my iPad, the larger iPad, which I use mostly for reading. This I use if I go to the gym. It's available for me on my iPhone, which is filming this video. And so not only is it readily available, but it tracks how much listening you do. So you develop meaningful statistics on how much you've been listening across the various months that you've been studying the language. And you can look at these in your profile at Link, per language, or if it's one language, when did you start, when were you doing more listening, less listening, and all of that is very helpful. So make sure you use the playlist. One other thing about listening, personally, I'm a great fan of these little guys, the AirPods. Now, you might think I'm a walking promotion for Apple, but these are tremendously convenient. But you can also use these conventional earpods. But the thing is, get something that is functional, that you like, that suits your budget, so that you can be equipped to listen and to track your listening on link. So that's what I wanted to emphasize, that language learning is not a matter of getting a grammar book and devouring this grammar book. In fact, if anything, I find after a while, after you've heard certain structures in the language, you become curious and you may look up a grammar point. But the main thing is to do a lot of listening and reading. And the listening, and maybe I should say, some people say they have trouble focusing when listening. Get content that you're interested in. Initially, in the early stages, you have to listen through content that may not be that interesting in order to get a toehold in the language. But eventually, on the internet, there's an unlimited supply of podcasts and interesting content, which I have used for all the various languages I've learned over the last 10 years. There has never been a better age in which to be learning languages. Content abounds, convenient tools abound. So go to it and make sure you listen as much as you can in order to improve in your language. So thank you for listening. Bye for now.